The normally amicable relationship between Canada and the United States has once again been thrust into the spotlight, marred by a fresh wave of trade tensions. This latest chapter in the ongoing saga of North American trade disputes has both nations on edge, with economic and political ramifications that could ripple across the continent. Former President Donald Trump's protectionist policies, a hallmark of his presidency, have resurfaced, casting a long shadow over the current trade dynamics. His approach, often characterized by aggressive tariff impositions and renegotiations of trade deals, has once again stirred the pot. In a move that has reignited trade disputes, Trump threatened tariffs on Canadian lumber and dairy, two of Canada's key export sectors. These industries are vital to the Canadian economy, and any disruption could have significant consequences, prompting a bold retaliation from British Columbia in the form of tolls on U.S. commercial vehicles traveling to Alaska. This tit-for-tat strategy has only served to escalate tensions further, with both sides digging in their heels. This escalation has left Alaska, heavily reliant on trade and transit through Canada, caught in the crossfire. The state's economy, already fragile, faces additional strain as supply chains are disrupted and costs rise. The current standoff raises crucial questions about the future of U.S.-Canada trade relations, and whether a long-term solution can be found to prevent such disputes from recurring. The impact on the Alaskan economy, particularly on small businesses that depend on cross-border trade, cannot be overstated. Many are already feeling the pinch, with some fearing they may not survive the prolonged uncertainty. And the broader implications for North American trade cooperation are equally concerning. The interconnected economies of the US, Canada, and Mexico rely on stable and predictable trade relations to thrive. As both nations grapple with these challenges, the need for a swift and amicable resolution has never been more critical. Diplomatic efforts are underway, but whether they will succeed in bridging the divide remains to be seen. The seeds of the current trade dispute were sown in March 2025, when former President Donald Trump, despite being out of office, continued to exert influence over U.S. trade policy. Trump, known for his aggressive trade tactics, accused Canada of unfair trading practices, particularly concerning dairy and lumber. He argued that Canada's dairy tariffs were harming American farmers, and that Canadian lumber imports were undercutting U.S. producers. Trump threatened to impose tariffs of up to 25% on these Canadian goods entering the U.S. market. This move, reminiscent of his previous trade wars with China and other nations, aimed to pressure Canada into making concessions and protecting American industries. However, the threat sparked immediate backlash from the Canadian government, setting the stage for a tit-for-tat trade battle. In a decisive response to Trump's tariff threats, British Columbia, Canada's westernmost province, known for its stunning landscapes and vibrant cities, announced its intention to impose tolls on U.S. commercial vehicles traveling through its territory to Alaska. This move is seen as a direct countermeasure to the economic pressures exerted by the U.S. administration. This bold move, slated to take effect on June 1, 2025, is expected to have significant implications for cross-border trade. The tolls aim to leverage the province's geographical importance as a transit route for goods destined for America's largest state. British Columbia serves as a critical link in the supply chain, and this new policy underscores its strategic significance. British Columbia Premier David Eby defended the tolls as a necessary measure to protect the province's interests in the face of U.S. protectionism. He emphasized that the tolls are not just a financial strategy but also a political statement. He argued that the tolls, projected to generate CAD $500 million annually, would provide a substantial boost to the province's economy. This revenue is intended to compensate for potential losses incurred by BC businesses due to U.S. tariffs. The funds will be used to support local industries and mitigate the impact of reduced trade. The move also signals Canada's resolve to stand firm against what it perceives as unfair trade practices by the United States. It highlights the ongoing tensions and the complex economic relationship between the two neighboring countries. The trade dispute between Canada and the United States has placed Alaska in a precarious position. The state's economy is heavily reliant on trade with Canada, with over $750 million in imports and $600 million in exports flowing between them annually. The proposed tolls on U.S. commercial vehicles transiting British Columbia threaten to disrupt this vital trade relationship, resulting in increased costs for Alaskan businesses and consumers. The tolls are expected to impact various sectors, including groceries, construction materials, and fuel, potentially leading to price hikes and supply chain disruptions. Moreover, the dispute could jeopardize major infrastructure projects such as the proposed gas pipeline between Alaska and Canada, further hindering the state's economic prospects. Section 5. The Last Frontier pushes back, Alaska's official response. Recognizing the potential economic fallout from the escalating trade dispute, Alaska has been vocal in its opposition to both the proposed U.S. tariffs and the retaliatory Canadian tolls. The Alaska House of Representatives passed a resolution, HJR 11, urging both countries to prioritize amicable resolution and respect for territorial sovereignty. The resolution emphasizes the deep economic and social ties between Alaska and Canada, highlighting the integrated nature of their economies. While the resolution awaits Senate approval, it underscores the urgency felt within Alaska to de-escalate the situation and find common ground. Section 6. Public Opinion, a Nation Divided. The trade dispute and the subsequent imposition of tolls have elicited mixed reactions from the public on both sides of the border. In Canada, public opinion largely supports the tolls, viewing them as a necessary response to protect Canadian interests against U.S. protectionism. The move is seen as a show of strength and a refusal to be bullied by a larger trading partner. However, American public opinion is more divided. Some view the tolls as a justified response to Trump's tariff threats, acknowledging the need for Canada to defend its economic interests. Others, particularly in Alaska, view the tolls as harmful to U.S.-Canada relations and detrimental to the Alaskan economy. Section 7. A Legacy of Contention, U.S.-Canada Trade Relations. The current trade dispute, while concerning, is not an isolated incident in the long and complex history of U.S.-Canada trade relations. Despite being close allies and partners, the two countries have often found themselves at odds over trade issues. The most notable example is the long-standing dispute over lumber, which has been a recurring point of contention for decades. The North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, later renegotiated and replaced by the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, USMCA, aimed to foster greater trade liberalization between the three countries. However, even within these agreements, certain sectors, such as dairy and lumber, have remained subject to ongoing disputes and disagreements. Section 8. The Future of Trade, Navigating Uncertainty. The current trade impasse between Canada and the United States presents significant uncertainty for the future of their trade relationship. The outcome of this dispute will likely depend on several factors, including the willingness of both governments to engage in meaningful dialogue and compromise. The upcoming U.S. elections could also play a pivotal role in shaping trade policy. A change in administration could lead to a more conciliatory approach, potentially easing tensions and paving the way for a negotiated settlement. However, if protectionist sentiments continue to hold sway, the trade dispute could escalate further, resulting in a protracted trade war with far-reaching consequences for both nations. Section 9. Conclusion. A Test of Resolve. The ongoing trade dispute between Canada and the United States, sparked by former President Trump's tariff threats, has created significant tension between the two countries. These tariffs were initially aimed at protecting American industries, but have had far-reaching consequences. The situation was further exacerbated by British Columbia's retaliatory tolls, which were implemented as a direct response to the tariffs. This move represents a critical juncture in the relationship between these two North American neighbors, highlighting the fragile nature of international diplomacy. The situation highlights the complexities and sensitivities inherent in international trade, particularly between economies as deeply integrated as those of Canada and the United States. Trade negotiations have become increasingly tense, with both sides striving to protect their national interests while maintaining a cooperative relationship. The immediate impact on Alaska underscores the interconnectedness of the North American economy. The state's reliance on cross-border trade has made it particularly vulnerable to the fallout from these disputes, affecting local businesses and communities. The importance of finding mutually beneficial solutions cannot be overstated. Both countries must work together to resolve their differences and establish a framework for future cooperation. As both sides navigate this challenging terrain, the need for diplomacy, cooperation, and a commitment to free and fair trade has never been greater. Diplomatic efforts are crucial in ensuring that the dispute does not escalate further and that a resolution is reached. The outcome of this dispute will undoubtedly shape the future of US-Canada trade relations. The decisions made in the coming months will have long-lasting effects on the economic landscape of both nations, and have lasting implications for the economic prosperity of both nations. The stakes are high, and the world is watching as these two countries work to find a path forward.